at that moment when this fish is coming along is all by divine providence. That is the position of the Hasidim. It's not the position of Rambam. You can ask, well, how can Rambam go against a piece of Talmud? The answer is the Rambam holds that there were different opinions, and he holds like a particular opinion that's only one of the opinions, and he's entitled to do so. But Hasidim are not heretics. Hasidim have a position that's rooted in the beliefs of the Jewish people, in the Talmud, in the Midrashim, in the Zohar, and those beliefs may not agree 100% with some of the beliefs of other opinions. But just as the Vilna Gaon is entitled to his own opinion in Kabbalistic matters, so too was the Baal Shem Tov and his successor, the Bavitcher Maggid. So too was the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya. Let me tell you something that the great Rabbi Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik, also known as the Rav, or the Rav of Boston, the Rosh Yeshiva of Yeshiva University, Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan, told the story many times, and this story was also repeated to me by people who knew the Brisker family. It is well known among the Briskers that when the Vilna Gaon saw the Alter Rebbe, he shut the door. When he saw the Alter Rebbe coming to debate him, he shut the door, and when he persisted, he left out the window. And the reason he did so was because he saw that he could not defeat this man in an argument. Now you have to understand something. The Vilna Gaon was the greatest genius, supposedly, for hundreds of years. His knowledge of Torah was beyond belief. He had defeated every great scholar that he had ever met. Here was a man 20 years his junior, whom he calls a heretic. Well, why couldn't he clearly defeat this man in an argument? And the answer is that he saw that this was a man who was just as well versed in the Talmud and the Kabbalah as he could recognize this. And he saw that this man had an answer for all of his objections. Therefore, since he could not defeat him in an argument, he refused to have an argument with him. Some people might say that that was chickening out. The Briskers say that he saw that he had a finished opinion. He wasn't capable of being changed from his opinion, and he didn't want to engage that. And very much like the students of the yeshiva that did not allow Sumchus, the student of Rabbi Meir, to enter the yeshiva because Sumchus was going to argue for Rabbi Meir's opinion. They should not reject it. And since the halacha is not like Rabbi Meir, Sumchus was rejected because he came with a preconceived idea. That's the way they explain it. But the bottom line in all of that is that the Alter Rebbe, the Baal HaTanya, who was 20 years the junior of the Vilna Gaon, was as great a scholar as he, and he could not have defeated him in an argument. And so, you out there that say these despicable things, you out there are repeating not just Lashon Hara, Motzi Shamra, Shvichas Damim. The most important elements that faces us is not the argument between the Vilna Gaon and the Alter Rebbe. The most important challenge that faces us today is the apathy and the irreverence that people have toward our tradition, and we have to together fight that. And I will tell you that the famous author of the Aruch HaShulchan received smicha from the Tzemach Tzedek. The Aruch HaShulchan was known as the Litvak. He received smicha from the Tzemach Tzedek. And he honored the Tzemach Tzedek as his Rebbe, even though he was there for a short time. And he reported certain things that many Hasidim object to, and many Oilamisha, Litvaks object to. But it has a ring of truth. We know that Rav LUBAVITCHER was enraptured by the persona of the Tzemach Tzedek, that as a result of that, he caused that there should be no more conflict between Chassidim and Misnagdim, and they should focus their attention against their common enemy, which at that time was the beginning of the Haskalah. Today, instead of focusing on the destruction of the Jewish community in many places, people put their energies into things that are hatreds and arguments that are hundreds of years old and that really have no resolution. I'm not going to prove to you, and I can't prove to you, that God is here in this room at every moment. And I can't prove to you that the Rambam is wrong and the Baal Shem Tov is right. It's a matter of faith. I believe by perfect faith, whoever listens to this, by divine providence. I also believe with perfect faith that everything that happens in the world is by divine providence. Even though the Rambam is my teacher over many, many years. Nonetheless, in this matter, my teacher is the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe. I'm entitled to my teachers, you are yours. That doesn't make me a heretic. Let me tell you a story. I was at a bris 32 years ago. And one of the luminaries of the city of Detroit was objecting to the way Hasidim showed reverence to their Rebbe. And I was a young shliach, just come, wondered why he felt that way. I knew his argument, but I asked him, why are you objecting to the way Hasidim revere their Rebbe? And his answer to me was that they have a Kabbalah, they have a tradition that all of the generations get less and less. And so, how could the Rebbe be greater than the ones before him? How do we give honor to the Rebbe more than we give the Ramah, more than we give the Beit Yosef? And it's true. We honor the Rebbe's words more than the Arizal's words, more than the Beit Yosef's words. How's that possible? After all, he said, we have a tradition, a Kabbalah, that the generations get less and less. So in my smart alecky way, I said, well, we have a different tradition. He said, oh? He says, I'd like to see that. I said, fine. I smiled to myself because I knew what I was going to write. And I wrote him an 8-page letter. The 8-page letter essentially was based upon the Talmud Sanhedrin 98b, which I knew by myself. And by the way, I didn't know this just because of the Hasidim and the discussions of Mashiach. I learned these things by myself. I learned a few things also throughout my lifetime. In 98b, there's a discussion, what is the name of the Messiah? So the students of Rabbi Shilo say Rabbi Shilo is his name. Shilo is his name. In the yeshiva of Rabbi Yanai, they said his name is Yanai, Yinan Shmoi. In the yeshiva of Rabbi Chanina, they said his name is Chanina. And there are those who say his name was Menachem ben Chizkiah. Chizkiah was the Tanat Vei Chizkiah, the yeshiva Chizkiah. He was gone by that time. And so Menachem had taken over. And so in the yeshiva, including the Rosh Yeshiva himself, they said if Mashiach is going to come, his name is Menachem. Now let's understand this. How is it possible that Menachem ben Chizkiah is going to be the Mashiach, and he's going to teach Torah to all of those who preceded him and will follow him? He was the student of Rebbe. He was one of many great students. How could he become the Messiah?